Darkness is your ally. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it.
You're gonna do superhero landing. Wait for it. Woo! Superhero landing. Yeah, that's really hard on your knees. Totally impractical. They all do it. You're a lovely lady, but I'm saving myself for Francis. That's why I brought him.
I prefer not to hit a woman, so please, play.
I mean, that's why I brought her? Oh, no, finish your tweet. That's fine. Just give us a second. There you go. Hashtag it. Go get her, Tiger.
You're letting him kill Martha. What does that mean? Why did you say that name? Find him! Save Martha!
On today's episode,
we don our hero outfits and then check our age appropriateness.
So, I want to go ahead and start with how the world of comics, with Iron Man literally exploding onto the big screen, and all of a sudden kids are now exposed to the world of comic books.
Yes, as if he didn't have an ego big enough already.
Well, yeah. Well, you got to think with the kids before that the world of comic books was relegated to just small pockets of niche readers and geeks and, you know, the nerd and
the ones that you had to physically find the stores in your area, be aware of them, be introduced to them.
Yeah, you have to have your friend say,
yeah,
hey, I had this awesome comic, and shove the book in your face. Like, read it.
Absolutely, because I know that you actually were the one that turned me on to Judge Dredd when we were younger. I wasn't aware of that until then. So it's not something you would stumble across your own.
Well, I have to backtrack because before that, it was actually, I think the movie with Sylvester Stallone, the not so good version with I Am the Law. And
I mean, it wasn't horrible. It was
well, with reading the books, he never took the helmet off, no matter what. I mean, I think when one episode, he was even in the shower with his helmet off.
To be fair, though, the comics also took it in a whole nother realm that they couldn't do in the movies, especially then.
Well, yeah, back then at the time, it was more of we had to make it PG rated. I think it was PG or PG-13 to appeal to the mass audience.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's actually how I got involved with seeing Judge Dredd. And okay, let me find out if there's more to his story. And then looking at the comic books, and oh wow, it's completely different than what this movie was. Comics is much better.
Absolutely, but nowadays kids have not only the plethora of the heroes that are out there now between movies and TV, but the access to it through the internet and just everywhere.
Yeah, nowadays it's everywhere. It's pretty much you can sneeze and you'll find something to do with the comic book world. It's out pretty much where like the fight between Marvel and DC. It's where you got one is doing so much better than the other.
Marvel.
Yeah. And DC is just looking at with his hand out, say, "Can I have some more, please?"
Please, sir.
That if you look at how the rise of popularity between the comic book world is, you have to look at Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
When that movie first came out, it's just exploded.
It really
brought
traction.
Marvel into the public eye, and then
because the movies that they had before, even though, and you know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but even though some movies like Constantine was out before that is based off the Marvel character,
but not as known as
your
A-team, so to speak, of comic book characters like the Hulk. Because there was, before Iron Man, there was the Incredible Hulk movies.
A couple of them, yeah.
And the Ang Lee version that was widely panned for...
I was going to say no one really talks about.
Okay, yeah, we're not... It's like the Alien 3 version. It's like, that doesn't exist. But also with that movie, it's brought everybody into the world of the comic books and then Marvel and all these different characters. And they're widely different from, Captain America and a gung-ho to Judge Dredd and to even like Spawn.
Yes. Yes. But it makes you wonder because like we look back on our nostalgia for comics and stuff with it being the print and paper and the actual comic books and the graphic novels. Whereas the kids nowadays, they're going to look back on the TV shows and the movies as the foundation for their nostalgia with this. So it also makes you wonder, are the studios understanding of this? Are they going is this going to be something where they're going to keep going, or is it just a short term in the long
I don't think you can call it a short term. It's been going on for over 10 years now.
Yes, but I'm
for
talking,
over a decade.
I'm talking in the span of someone's lifetime. This could be a short term, even though it ran, 20 years, let's say.
Yeah.
In an 80-year life, it's not exactly, the entirety of their life. But is this something where are they now going to keep this as a medium, or is it going to be something that they will always have the print and paper, even though it may go to digital form? They'll have the comics themselves, and this is just the fad at the time.
Yes, because you can actually say that purists would say that the digital version of a comic book is a heretic. And you have to have your comic book in the sleeve and read it, or not even. You get two copies. You get the one that you keep in the sleeve and lock away in your vault, and the one that you actually read.
You get that fingerprint oils.
Get fingerprints and little dog ears, and then you can still sell that for $20 a couple years from now,
depending. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just one of the things that is. How do you get your kids involved? I mean, you're not going to give them a Judge Dredd comic book or a Spawn comic because that's just way too...
God, no.
But you don't also be insulting. It's like, okay, here's a My Little Pony comic for your daughter or anything like that. Because my daughter, she likes The Flash and stuff like that. And I know there's probably different issues that might not be good for her because different versions. They got the new 52 or different styles of artists and the writers.
Now you're getting more into the art form itself, though.
Well, no, not the art form. It's how the plot line and how Flash would go through and say, instead of normal, I won't kill or I won't beat him up to an inch of his life. He might be just let the bad guy get away because it might be in the plot line necessary.
Okay.
Where you gotta think, okay, the kids are seeing it in movies, TV shows, and stuff like that. They'll be looking up to these, like the Flash, as like a hero. Instead of, okay, the Flash just killed this guy. Why? Why did he do that? But that's one of the things that I'm looking at is that not hero worship.
Okay.
Is that more family friendly ways of doing this, or different stories that they can look into?
So, are you saying in regards to the actual studios themselves, whether the comic studios or movie studios, like them doing more family friendly, or are you thinking?
Well, you look at it this way, like with DC is more Batman. And
gritty. Yeah,
he's dark, gritty, and brooding and stuff like that. But Marvel is more like the A-Team type of style, like Iron Man, Captain America,
Hulk,
Thor. I'll think off the top of my head here. Where they're more upbeat, so to speak.
There's more humor involved.
Yeah, it's more humor. It's more not just like Batman. He's going after the Joker. Joker does bad things. I'm sure the bad thing in Iron Man and the Hulk, but they're more in your face, so to speak.
Even with the with some of your characters like Loki, where he, betrays and stabs Thor, but then you come to find out later that it was all he was in on it. He was a part.
It was a part of the plan.
Yeah, so it's I can see that, but is this something? What I'm curious about, is this something that's going to last? Do you think?
I think it is.
Okay.
I think it is. I mean, it's the way how our society now is. Everything is easily consumed. It's easily put in front of you, and you can look at the back archive, and that's even coming up into the internet age, so to speak.
You don't think it's going to get to a point where there's too much, or like?
Well, with the movies, yes.
Okay.
I mein, there's already a little bit of backlash. It'd be like a Marvel movie every year, twice a year. So every twice a year, you have a Marvel superhero movie. DC, if they can get their act together, Wonder Woman, the only bright shining star of the whole DC movie universe, so to speak.
Which I guess if there was any one of them, that was probably
that was the better one, because it gives girls a good
Yes.
role model to look up to. Harley Quinn and the Suicide Squad, no, I don't think so. And then that whole movie was a complete dreck.
It had great potential. I think the rewrites and Deadpool killed it.
Yeah, then that's Deadpool, and it's just one of those things. It's like they're going to be oversaturating, where you have too much all at once. Before you had Iron Man, and it was 3 years until Iron Man 2. No, it was Captain America. No,
I actually don't remember the timeline.
I know you guys listening will be like screaming, "No, it was Thor." It was a couple years, then it was Thor, because that brought up. No, I'm getting it wrong now. It's just way too confusing because it's way too much.
Yeah.
I can't get my timelines in order.
Yeah, no kidding.
But what I'm saying is that it's going to be. It was a year or two.
There was space between.
There's space between. Now you had Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's say for 2017, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then you have Thor Ragnarok within a couple months of each other. Then you have, I think Civil War is coming up December. I can't remember, but you're gonna have 2 to 3 Marvel movie or superhero movies in a single year, which is going to be oversaturating the general public, and that's what you want to keep on your side.
But at this point, because it's been out for so long, is it going to overwhelm the non-geeks or have enough people converted that it's not?
I think it might annoy the geeks. But the non-geeks be like, "Oh, it's just more Flash, and hey, I know this character."
They're invested.
Yeah, they're invested. They're not going to go. They're not going to be like us and go, "Oh, I want to read more about Thor." Pick up a comic and look at that and see where they can go for the next one, and so you look at the history, and then you go and make your own decisions. I want to continue reading because I like these characters. I like this universe. Would I go see another movie? Sure. Because I put my trust. I trust in Marvel.
In Marvel we trust.
Exactly.
Do you think that they're going to embrace more of the digital media for the growing fan base, the younger fan base? For example, we talked in a few episodes ago about the kids and the fact that they're YouTube fans. They will just sit on YouTube and watch all day. Do you think Marvel will kind of start to, I would hate to say realize it because I would hope they would know this already, but start putting out little, even if it's YouTube Red, little mini series for their younger fans?
They have. It was speaking again of Thor, there's little YouTube videos. What Thor's been doing while he's been on Earth.
I actually haven't seen
with
those.
What's his name? Steve, this regular Joe kind of guy, and he's been working in an office, and it's actually pretty funny. Because you have Chris Hemsworth at Thor. He's writing, and he's got beach shorts, and he's in his little room, his roommate's room. He has a little drawing, little manure with the sunglasses. It's you have to. I'll put in a link on the show notes.
Okay.
But it's actually pretty funny.
But I was wondering, like, because obviously there's Netflix, and the Netflix series are doing good. And on your point, they just released Defenders, and I think it's going to be within the next month. They're going to release the Punisher standalone.
Yeah.
So very
November,
close.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So very close together, but that's a hard topic for me to talk about, just because of the fact that I'm a huge Punisher fan. So I don't care how close together. I want to see it.
But yeah, to get back on your point with like oversaturation, is, in my honest opinion, I don't think there will be.
Okay.
I think yes.
I mean, I hope not.
Yeah, I hope. I want to say that they continue these shows for the next 10, 15 years, because I love watching them. And I know some might drop off. The interest will start waning. It's going to happen no matter what. It's life.
This is true.
That oversaturation will happen with particular sets of characters.
Okay. So you're thinking it's going to be more character based than it is for the entire cinematic universe
because,
itself.
I mean, in any like Image Comics or Marvel, DC, you have this universe that is huge with characters and stuff like
Very
that.
true.
I mean, you can dip from that well as many times as you want, and people will say, okay, oh, we'll like this one, so we'll watch your show or watch your movie for 2, 3, 4 times, whatever. And okay, now we've had enough because you're starting to overdo things, or we're just not how you're portraying in this characters in this movies trilogy or whatnot. We don't like it, and we'll drop off.
One of the reasons, though, that I wonder is we've had in the past with some of the older movies, take Fantastic Four, where you had a set cast, and the movie did, relatively well.
It did all right. The first one with Jessica Alba and
was that her? Yes.
He now plays Captain America. Chris Evans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You have your set cast. And it did relatively well, but then by the time they went to do another one, that cast is not available. So you recast the characters.
Well, yeah, they rebooted. Well, they had a sequel, the Silver Surfer one.
Yeah, we don't talk about that one.
That's another one. Let's make a list. The ones that we never shall speak of again. But then they tried to do a reboot of the first movie, and that fell flat.
But
because, again, the audience wasn't there.
But were they not there because of the casting for it?
It was...
Were they already invested in the actors? Because the actors can only do this for so long.
Well, I think what it was studio involvement and studio executives.
It's also not surprising.
Yeah, hamstringing or saying, hey, let's do this, or not letting their directors and the actors do what the studio is paying them to do. It was more studio, let's go ahead and throw this out because we need to do a movie and we'll lose the rights.
But like they're gonna I think it's already been talked about and rumored that they're losing Robert Downey Jr. Chris Evans is getting towards the end of his Captain America stint. So what are you going to do with these characters? Are you in comics? You can draw them as much as you want, and relatively easy to reboot.
Well, they constantly change the characters.
They do have stories.
Different person will step into the role of Captain America,
Falcon taking Captain America, and Winter Soldier. Yes,
and now just recently with Iron Man, I've not in the comics. I can't remember exactly, but it's a 16-year-old girl. Stepping into the role of Iron Man. She makes her own suit and everything, so she becomes Iron Man.
But I'm just like, is that going to hold up and last, or are people going to be too invested?
Well, it's like, let's just jump out of the comic book universe and say James Bond.
Okay.
That series is just exploded, or it has been going on for 40 years now?
A very long time.
And the leading actor is constantly changing, but it's the same persona of James Bond. It's completely different. They changed a few things here and there, but it's the basis is still the same. It's still James Bond.
Oh, it's an interesting point. I hope it holds. You know what I mean? Like, because it's very true, and it is confusing for some people why there's different actors playing the supposed same character.
Well, a lot of people say it's my favorite James Bond is Sean Connery and Daniel Craig.
Of course, because those are the best.
Yes, of course, Moneypenny.
But they've never touched on, or I mean, they've kind of hinted at, depending on how you want to look at it, but they've never formally touched on the fact that there's been different actors to play it. It's not like Doctor Who, where there's a reason for the different actors. You know what I mean? So is that something that, especially with the younger generation, they grow up or become fans of Robert Downey Jr., are they going to be as accepting, or is it going to still continue as well with a new actor because he can do it so long? Same with Wolverine.
Well, yeah, because Hugh Jackman, he's done.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
The Logan movie was his last movie, and he's been doing it for just as long as Robert Downey Jr.
They were trying to pass the torch, if you will, with X-23, but I don't see that holding.
Well, you have to. Let me step into the studio executive's shoes.
And the paycheck.
And yeah, let me take that paycheck. Let me say that we want to continue this franchise, and with a new face, and the audience, it loves the character, but do they know X-23?
Do they need to know X-23?
Do we need to have like an origin story movie or show or something?
Isn't that what Wolverine was?
Well, X-23 was let's go into the geeky room now. X-23 was a clone. If I remember right, she was a clone of his DNA material. So technically, yes, she is a daughter of Logan.
Okay.
Because she has the basic, because that's part of the movie. They were trying to clone his material, DNA material. They had a lot of mistakes, as in the movie, as spoilers.
Deadpool.
Yeah. Where they're trying to make a super soldier, and they succeeded, but they were just so like, kill everything. And X-23 had some trace amounts of that, but it's more of his humanity, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So let's step out of the geeky room. Then what you would have to have your audience. That's the studio executive's dilemma: is our general public going to know or understand what's going on? Do they need to have an origin story? I mean, we already did that with Spider-Man. We had 3-4 origin stories.
That's the only thing we're going to get with Spider-Man is origin stories.
Yeah.
But you could also, I mean, I guess it's an origin story, but you could look at the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an origin story of how they came together, but it's not an origin story for the characters themselves.
Right, because we're not going to see exactly what happened to Gamora, what her family history, and how she became this tortured subject of
Thanos.
Yeah, and then she is a creation of what he did to her.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just one of the things that the general public you have to tiptoe. You can't force feed, and you can't hold back too much.
But with the comics, they have had such open realm to explore all these possibilities. So with this movement, with the newer, younger generation and movies and TVs being their comics, will they take it in that generation where it's going to become, to us, it's going to be frustrating because of how they're going to do it, and we're used to it one way. But for this younger generation, they're going to enjoy it as we enjoyed comics, even though it's going to be kind of chaotic in the sense of there's so many different storylines and characters and actors.
I mean, it's how we look at it. It's very confusing, and then I think we have to be like a guiding light and try to sway or persuade, or just to give an option to our younger generation, our kids,
I guess a great example would be Star Wars.
Yeah.
Our first three compared to the younger generation's first three.
And then the prequel series and how they grew up with that.
Yeah, and the fact that the Jar Jar series, as we'll call them.
we don't speak of that.
Unfortunately, we are starting to have to, because that generation's now getting older, and they enjoyed those movies more than they enjoyed the true original three, because that's what they grew up with.
Yeah, I can see your point there.
And that's saddening, but I guess it's a reality we're going to have to accept.
It's precisely because each generation, I think we talked about in an earlier episode, is each generation has their own fandom of things, of series that they grow up with. And
I guess that also brings a good point, is this current run, and I'm not talking about the start, but I'm talking about current, is this current run of superhero movies and TV shows for our benefit or for the younger generation's benefit?
I want to say it's a little bit of both. Because we enjoy it, we love it, and we pass that joy and love on to our own kids, and that's basically what it's there for. It's to look at the comic books is to look at this universe, to escape your mind from everything else, and to enjoy reading or watching or listening to this universe of superheroes and villains and battles back and forth between good and evil.
Okay.
Now, our main topic for this episode is our opinionated breakdown to introducing your kids to Marvel and DC's film and television adaptations. This is TV, movie, everything.
Your streamings, all the craziness.
Now, on the first part of my list, I'm going to go ahead. This is the cable. This is basically your cable TV networks like USA, TNT, CW, and NBC, ABCs.
Or whatever they're called by the time this is aired.
Yeah. So on the cable list, I have, for the most appropriate, which I think you can let your kids watch up to 10 and up, I want to say, is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is starting up the S.H.I.E.L.D., which is, if you watch the movie Iron Man or any kind of Marvel shows, you should know, is after the Avengers, the S.H.I.E.L.D. members go after all sorts of stuff, and Hydra and all sorts of crazy shenanigans. A spin-off show of a movie. Now, the second one is The Flash. Of course, we all know The Flash, right? We should.
I'd hope so. It's a good show.
Guy goes fast, runs fast. He's the fastest man on earth. Now, next after that, he's more like a campy, fun type show. After that is, I would think it's a CW. Most of these are going to be in CW. Is Flash and Supergirl. Supergirl is Superman's cousin, and that's all of her crazy adventures on Earth with dealing with aliens and humans on Earth that want give bad harm to others. Something.
Which I wonder if they'll give Cosmo his own show.
Sure. Give everybody his own show.
Superman's dog.
I don't know that one.
You don't know him?
I don't know Cosmo.
It was a cartoon.
On the next list, another CW show is Legends of Tomorrow. Now, this one's more not well known. It's basically taking a group of heroes and not criminals, so to speak. Like you have the Atom, the White Canary, and a couple other ones. I'm not too sure on the names at the moment.
Captain Cold, I think.
Yeah, Captain Cold, Heatwave,
Hawk Girl, I think.
No, but it's basically it's a mixture of like it can't be fun, but they do delve into some grimdark elements with the show. Next on the list is Arrow. This is the Green Arrow. This is a show on the CW as well, another one on the CW, Now this one's totally grimdark, where first season is, I want to say 13 and up plus. Is a lot of delving into serious situations where a lot of killing and
It's kind of Batman-esque in a sense.
yes, I would say Batman-esque, but with arrows.
Yeah, yes.
A bow and arrow. Now that's pretty much my list of 1 to 5, the top 5, so to speak, on the cable side of things. But now Joe's got streaming.
So on your streaming side, you have your Netflix, your Hulus, your Amazons, and all that good stuff. These cover your shows more like your Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders, and the soon-to-be-released Punisher, which, if you don't know by now, I am so excited. All of these shows, because of the fact that they're on the streaming, yes, they still have their regulations that you have with cable, just not quite as tight.
It's very loosey-goosey, if you want to say, where they can get away with murder.
So as with all of our suggestions, this is obviously based off of maturity of your own child and your own discretion. But in our humble opinion, we'd definitely say this is more for your 13 and up age range for pretty much any of these shows, because they are dark, much darker. Your first, I'd hate to say even the first season of Daredevil, you could probably get away with a little bit younger, but I wouldn't push it too much.
You would have to pre-watch the episodes to make sure, if you haven't watched it, just to be sure.
Yeah, your Jessica Jones is definitely older.
Yeah.
It deals with a lot of touchy subjects that kids shouldn't necessarily be introduced to
at the
early.
time. All this depends on how mature your kids are.
Your Luke Cage, there's a lot of language and racial issues that can be brought into that. Your Iron Fist, well, just kind of leave it at that. The Defenders, it's still very new. I've not gotten far enough into it to touch on everything.
It's I would say it's very violent, as the Daredevil 1 and 2, and touch on subjects as Luke Cage and Jessica. It's the culmination of all of them together.
It's fair. And then the Punisher, even though it's not out yet, is very easy to distinguish between the second season of Daredevil, that was basically Punisher's origin story,
right,
and just Punisher in general is very violent.
Yeah, if you want to know what Punisher, go pick up a comic book and read it yourself. Take Batman and crank it up to 11.
With guns.
Yeah, with guns and knives and explosives, and
where he's actually aiming for the people, not around the people.
Right. Now, these are on the TV side of things. We're going to go ahead and jump over into the movie side. We have we'll start with the DC area with the Dark Knight series. This is Christopher Nolan, the director Christopher Nolan. Now, this is dealing with more realistic version of a grittier and darker version of Batman.
Not as the campy
60s
earlier,
Adams West.
yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely, although there are a lot of what you would think of as violent or very touchy subjects, there's not a lot that's actually shown directly. There's not.
It's perceived as you know what's going to happen, even if you don't see it.
It's a lot of suspense, a lot of will they, won't they, kind of situation.
And do you want to actually touch on spoilers, or it's?
Nah.
No, I don't want to get angry hate mail or
No, it's a little too early in our
too soon.
Yeah, in our infancy for this podcast to get into the spoilers. But for our opinion, we both agree that it is probably best for a 13 and up age range for your Nolan series Batmans. Around the same time of the Nolan series as you have your Man of Steel series.
And this is Superman. It's the Superman origin, so to speak, but not really delving into full origin story. I would say it's a lot of destruction, and the last half of the movie, there's a lot of intense scenes. There's a lot of tension towards the end. I would give this, say, a 13 plus discretion on it. it's Superman, and you can't really go wrong with Superman.
I feel you can.
And a lot of people did say with this movie that they went wrong in certain areas without delving in too deep, but
I don't know. It was so hard to watch for me.
it was. I enjoyed it.
That's
So,
fine. There are a lot of
you
people
have-
that I have friends that absolutely love the series, and I have friends that when they hear this are going to give me a hard time, like they do every time Batman.
Well,
gets
you don't
brought up.
like Superman?
It's not that. It's just I can't get through the movies. They're so boring to me.
Now, moving on from that is to I want to say the new era of DC verse.
Your Ben Affleck Batman
Yes, the Batman versus Superman
and your Suicide Squad.
and Suicide Squad. I
Yes.
wasn't even going to say the name, but okay.
Well,
You forced me.
You kind of have to.
Let's lump these two movies together because it's like a continuation of Suicide Squad was like a continuation of Batman and Superman.
Which is a lot of
Heavy sigh.
a lot of destruction, a lot of things going boom.
And not so good movie wise. This was where the truck fell off the cliff, I want to say. I want to say Batman versus Superman it's the Martha movie.
And we'll call Suicide Squad the overly edited movie.
Or the Will Smith.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Will Smith playing Will Smith.
For these, we're looking at roughly around 13 and up. There is a lot of violence, a lot of destruction of property, and buildings.
Language, violence, scenes where tension,
But there's not
explosions.
there's not a lot that you would really need to be concerned about in regards to your children interacting with others because of what they've seen in this movie. And,
Right.
and again, this is all completely in our opinion.
Now, going from the dark, we're going to go into the brighter side of things with Wonder Woman.
With keeping the universe alive.
Yeah, it was like it's Hail Mary of the DC universe in the movies, and they did it. If they continue from this on, we'll see. Yeah, it's
Hopes are low.
hopes are very low. Now, this one had to deal with a lot of it's World War II or World War One. Sorry,
So the time frame in general makes it a tough,
tough call, but I have to say 13 plus.
which is fair.
Because we're a lot of wartime scenes and the violence with that. It's World War One. It's just bad. It's not as well, that's a whole nother topic, but we'll just say it's bad. So yeah, we'll say 13 and plus up with that. We'll move into we broke it down to DC and then Marvel.
We're ending with the light.
We're with the fun.
Yes.
Marvel. Okay, with Phase 1, that included Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, the First Avenger, and ending up with Marvel's The Avengers. And that's Phase 1 of the Marvel verse.
So with those, regardless of how they were rated at the time, enough time has gone by that even the subjects they did touch upon really don't feel like they've had quite the impact. I mean, just as with anything, you look back on older movies and the ratings don't quite fit what the movie
look at
is.
80s movies and you're looking at, wow, that wouldn't fly
Yeah.
today.
So
with different aspects of it.
with your Phase 1s being that the age of the movies already, and on top of the fact that they were made to bring in the widest audience to really draw people in, we're giving it a good 10 age plus.
Right. That's a fair assessment for all of these 6 movies. Now, moving on to Phase 2 of the Marvelverse, that's including Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers: Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man to round it out.
So with those, they're relatively newer. The rating systems that are already in place for those movies still hold pretty well, with the exception possibly with Ant-Man. Ant-Man's got a little bit more on the language side more than anything, but that one you could go a little bit younger.
It's passerby.
Yeah, but right now we're calling that group, the Phase 2 group, 13 and up. Like we said, Ant-Man could be the exception, but that'll be up to your...
Yeah, because I want to say with the Captain America, the Winter Soldier, there was a lot of... it started more at the beginning of the war between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. Hydra start... Sorry, I should stop now. A spoiler. I'm getting ahead of myself. But it started more with the wartime aspect. Dark World with Thor was more of the, I want to say, scary elements to... These all depends on your age, not your age, but your kid's age and maturity.
Level. Yes.
Right. Now, moving into Phase 3, that was Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yes. With that, again, these are very current, so the movie ratings are also very current. And as a group, we're giving it a 13-plus age rating. Now, having said that, again, your Spider-Man Homecoming...
But it's actually, it was, I want to say 10-plus, but there's probably certain aspects, certain scenes that might be frightening to certain kids, but everything else was fine.
Like, you took your daughter
I took my daughter, and she loved it. She loves Spider-Man. She loves Captain America. She loves all superheroes. Now, she is 7, but her maturity level was higher than what her actual physical age is. So we decided that she was able to handle it.
She was able to differentiate between the fact that it's fiction and a movie and...
completely made up, but it was still a fun time to be had.
But you wouldn't take her necessarily to go see like Guardians of the Galaxy just because of the subject matter.
Well, I say yes, she did see it. And 2.
And this is why we say that everything is on your discretion.
Exactly, and your child's maturity level. It's not a guideline say you have live by this and that's it. Now, all of this is a Marvel. We also have our outliers, which are the 17 and plus. Now, there's very few of them.
At this point, although I feel like there's going to be more because they did do very well.
And this is the 17 plus is because there's a lot of language, a lot of violence, and a lot of other kind of scenes.
Sexual situations.
Right. Is first on the list I would have to put is Deadpool.
As if that's not already obvious. It is rated R for a reason.
Exactly. And you shouldn't take your 4-year-old to go see, which I know a lot of people did, which I don't know why they would do that.
Because there are some...
They think comic book movie. Hey, it can be fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet they had a nice surprise within the first, 10 minutes?
Not even that.
The first opening credits.
Yes.
And then on following that is Logan. Now, it wasn't as violent. It was violent, but it's not like Deadpool is on a whole genre on his own.
Yes, Deadpool will always kind of be on its own scale.
Yeah, it's this Deadpool scale, let's call it.
But Logan still.
Logan was very violent, very a lot of language as well, and I think for that is the reason why it got an R, which is a good reason why, because you couldn't really say neuter the material, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very good movie for what it is, and as we previously mentioned, a stepping off point for Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Going away.
And that is reason why this and Deadpool got a 17 plus in our opinion.
Absolutely. And again, we've said it a few times, and we'll just throw the disclaimer in one more time, just because that's the way people are nowadays. This is completely our opinion.
And don't take it for gospel or anything. Well, Joe and Josh said I could take my toddler to go watch Deadpool and no problems. They said it was fun. It was like My Little Pony.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if that's the case, you can pretty much just stop listening to us right now.
We won't lead you astray.
Yeah.
Now, in closing of this episode, we want to ask you, the listeners, a question. And this is basically going to be a poll. When this episode releases, I'm going to have an article on the website asking you where the comic books, and if you have any picks of a family-friendly option of comic books that you know of, or that you have yourself.
Absolutely. We loved comics as kids and when we had time and availability. Now that we've gotten older and more responsible and have kids
Speak
of
for
our
yourself.
own, yeah.
Older.
Yeah, good luck, buddy.
Okay.
We have not been able to keep up with the comic realm as well, so that's why we are coming to you.
Yeah, we kind of fell out of that scene, so to speak. So, yeah, that's why we're asking if you have any suggestions for family-friendly picks of comic books that you know of, or that you heard about, or you want to know about. Let us know, and on a poll, or on our social media, on the Twitters, or anything like that. The Twitters. Thanks for listening to this episode of Geek 2.0 Podcast. Be sure to check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Geek 2.0 Podcast. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Geek 20 Podcast. Don't forget to visit our website at geek20podcast.com for older episodes, news, and much more. And make sure to subscribe to our podcast through your favorite podcatcher player of choice. The Geek 2.0 Podcast is part of the Collective Network.